Welcome to Entrepreneur Eats, a conversation about business and community with a side of eats. My name is Deanna Smith, and I'm your host. I'm Deanna Smith. This is Entrepreneur Eats, and I'm sitting with the Deputy Mayor, Christian Garcia. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you.
How is everything going at the city?
We are moving quickly. We're doing a lot of work right now. It's been really good. I think things turned out the way we were hoping for in November, and so I think there's a lot of good potential. Things are looking bright. I think we're going to be moving along just smoothly in the next 2 years.
Excellent. And when you say things turned out the way you hoped, what were those particular things that you hoped for?
Well, one, I got reelected.
Yay,
so
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the things I was hoping for. Measure I passed as well. And I understand the concerns that people had regarding Measure I, and some people were skeptical or hesitant. But one of the things that we really wanted, the phrase I keep hearing is that we want to thrive, not just survive.
Of course.
And what we were looking at the time is that we were at a point where we had already been cutting down on services, on staff. We went full cost recovery on fees. We were doing everything that we could to close the deficit that we had. And we're looking at proposals for 2026 as well.
What was the deficit?
The deficit was about just shy of 10 million.
Wow.
So it was quite hefty. And then, like I said, we've been looking at everything possible for us to actually start closing that up. And so we were very aggressive, but what we were still looking at in the next coming years, we would still have to be cutting some essential services, or making really difficult decisions.
You mean if the Measure I had not passed?
Had Measure I not passed, yes. We're expanding a lot. We want to expand on housing. We want to bring in more businesses. We're doing all, like I said, we're looking at cannabis as an option as well. So we're doing everything that we can, but I think it would still be a very difficult situation. So now this gives us a little bit more wiggle room and more opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Good, like the wiggle room.
Yeah, definitely.
So going back to your congratulations.
Thank you.
Your campaign. So when you came on board the first time, you were appointed.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about that and how it came about?
Yeah, so I had been I was elected for the Palomar College board as a trustee in 2020. And in 22, there was a vacancy because of the redistricting. So I was approached by a few people in the community asking if I'd be interested in applying. And I actually pushed back for about 2 or 3 months. I guess about 2 months I was pushing back. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay on the college board, but I talked to a family member and I talked to a pastor friend of mine, and they really encouraged me to move forward with it. So I did. We had the interview process. It was, I believe, at the end of January, and they made their selections, and they decided to appoint me. So that was really something, not something I really expected, but here we are, and 2 years later. I think I'm on the path where I'm supposed to be on.
Good. What were your deciding factors that made you say, okay, yes, I'm going to do this?
One of the things I've always been big on service. So I really believe that a life of service is one of the few lives worth living. And it started when I was in the Peace Corps. So I started in the Peace Corps from 2009 to 2011. I served in Cambodia, in a small provincial town in western Cambodia. And so I really, really love the idea of service. And when I got into the college board, I think that was a great way to serve, because I already work as a teacher, and I think that was an opportunity to serve more people in that capacity. So one of the things that really pushed me towards it is that somebody, I remember it was a family member or my pastor friend, where they said that this was an opportunity to serve more people in more ways. And so I think that really stuck with me. I mean, I'm talking about it 2 years later, so I think that was one of the things that really, and they brought to my attention the different ways that I could serve.
Mm-hmm. Give me an example of what they said.
So, when you work on a college board, even though it's really important, you're confined to education and curriculum and everything that goes with the college. When it comes with the city, there's so many different industries that you're able to touch on. And then you're also serving, I think, more people, more demographics, more walks of life, everything. And even though, again, the college does have that ability, you do have the ability to serve those people, I think there's greater opportunity at a city level.
Wow. So you saw a great opportunity to expand your experience and also your services.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you for serving. I believe you're doing an excellent job for our city.
Thank you.
And transitioning from being appointed to actually having a campaign,
Yes.
what was that like? It must have been a whole different animal for you.
Yes. Yeah. So the first time that we campaigned in 2020, it was during COVID. And so that was very different because I had, we were in lockdown. And so it was mostly my wife. It was me and my wife and my dog, where we took all our free time and we talked to people online or we went door to door. And in 24 this year, it was way different because not only do I have my wife and my dog, we have a 1-year-old. And so he's a handful. I'm also working full time as a teacher, and I'm already serving as on the city council. So we're talking about 70-hour weeks when we put everything in. That's not even including the child. So it was different. It required a lot more teamwork with a lot of people. And one of the things that I did the math, and I think I committed about 16 months and a total of around 600 to 700 hours campaigning. When we talk about going to different events, talking to people, making calls, doing door to door, I think it was close to 600 or 700 hours.
Wow.
So it was quite a bit of work. Yeah.
Obviously, it paid off.
Yes.
And you have great support from our community and wonderful support from your wife. And
Yes.
I've seen you all over town with that precious angel boy of yours.
Yes.
Yeah, he gets a lot of attention.
Yes. Yes. He's the new and improved version.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think this is a really good road for you.
Thank you.
I've seen you in public with people, and you're just so calm and so polite and respectful. And one of the things I really appreciate about you is when you give someone your attention, you appear to give them all of your attention.
Yes.
And you are actually listening
Yeah.
to what they're saying to you. I've noticed this time and time again. So that's a great quality.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want to touch on something too regarding the support is one of the reasons why I think things are, for the overall positive is I do have relationships with, I think, community leaders, around town that I think have more experience, more wisdom, more education in different industries. You're included in that. It's just the ability to have access to community leaders and just be able to speak, I think, has been such a blessing in my life because it's a difficult position. Decisions are difficult. You're never going to make everybody happy. But being able to hear people and get the wisdom and experience and the insight of so many people, I think has been, again, not just such a blessing, but it has really provided guidance for me. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate it.
I think one of the biggest challenges between our city leaders and our public, general public and our residents, is there's such a disconnect.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping that with this podcast and just being in the community and our younger leadership, we can bridge that gap.
Yes. Having people go out and city leaders, especially, to just go out and really be talking in the public, whether it is, not just that galas and nice dinners and everything, but street cleanups and new restaurant openings or Little League games. I think that's where people will need to see us.
Well, I'll be seeing you at the Little League field. Moving on to Measure I.
Yes.
So it's passed. What a relief. A lot of people got behind this and really helped our public and our residents understand the importance of it passing.
Yes.
And the challenges if it didn't pass. Thankfully, it passed.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it has, what do you want to see happen with the funds that will come in?
One of the things is, that I think everyone really wants to look at is our first responders. We want to make sure that they're fully staffed, that they have the resources that they need. I think Escondido is the second lowest staffed police department in the county. I believe we're second. And we have barely raised or increased our police personnel despite an increase in the last 20 years, despite our population increase and despite the increase in calls for services. Fire as well, like I said, I think we need to continue supporting them, providing the resources that they need. Everyone knows that we are in what I would call an epidemic right now with fentanyl and opioid and drug crisis right now. But one of the things I think we really want to start expanding on is recruiting more businesses, doing everything that we can in order to stimulate the economy. I think there's a lot that the city can do to increase our economic potential. And I want to see some of those funds going towards that as well. I'm a big supporter of the arts as well. So I think anything that we can do to continue supporting our arts. But I think right now my biggest priority is, and of course the homelessness. I think one of the things that the mayor has been wanting to do is have some kind of service or shelter or support an existing shelter, but having it come through city funds. And we haven't had the opportunity to do that. The reason why I think it's important that the city provides funds or provides those services, because when we take state, federal, or county funds, we are restricted to their laws and policies, and we're not able to control the policies or implement the policies that we'd like to see. So I think this is going to be pretty instrumental in being able to serve the Escondido homeless population as opposed to the region, which has been an uphill battle for us. As people come in throughout the region, it makes it very difficult for us to address the immediate homeless population here in town because we're serving the entire region, and so it doesn't give us the opportunity to really address what's happening in our neighborhood.
So how do you think Measure I funding will directly affect our police department?
As I said, I think we need to have an increase in personnel. Now, I believe it was in the summer we were able to we were able to approve 4 more police officers for our community outreach program, which is huge. When I talked to Chief Varso, who's retiring, and I'll get back to that in a moment, I had a one-on-one meeting with him, and I asked him, what's his perspective on the homeless situation. He really wanted to have an increase in the cops division, like I mentioned, but he knew that was going to be an uphill battle because essentially we just didn't have the funding for it. In February, I asked for a study to see how it would be possible to get the funds for 4 more police officers. We estimated that it was going to be around $1 million to hire 4 more from the get-go, and then maybe around a little bit less to continue serving that. And so what ended up happening was, I think the request was made in February, and then they came back in May or June, and that was when they had the results for us. So we had 4 more police officers. We were able to hire on 4 more police officers. I think to bring them on will be 1.2 million, and then close to 900 after that on an annual basis. So with Measure I, we're looking to have, because that was so difficult to maneuver, we had to reallocate funds. I think that's going to give us the opportunity to expand our cops division. We also had 2 more public work employees that were hired on after that, so I would like to see more of that. So I really want to see the cops division grow. I want to have our public works division grow, and I'm really going to see if we could get an increase in our PERT. So that's the community psychiatrist, anybody that's having a mental breakdown or is having an issue with a drug-induced episode or anything like that. We're going to be able to have psychiatrists serving for the city as well. So I think that is really going to be monumental for the police.
Those sound like excellent places to put our funding. And you were going to talk about Chief Varso.
Yeah, so Chief Varso, I think it's been known that he's going to be retiring. I think he just sent out a letter, I think earlier this week, or earlier this month, I'm sorry. And so I have a really good relationship with Chief Varso. He is somebody that I've been so impressed by his communication and his willingness to work with the city. I mean, it's not uncommon that I'll text him asking him, hey, do you have a couple minutes in the next couple days? And he'll call me within 5 minutes, just to communicate. It doesn't matter how big or minute it is, so I do appreciate it. He's going to be really difficult to replace. I think he just knows the city so well. He's been here for so long. He has so much institutional knowledge. He has the relationships that I think are really difficult for people to build. So we're going to be looking. I think starting next month we'll be looking for a new chief, and we'll see what we can do. But I'm optimistic, and so long as the new chief or the new person that we're looking to hire has the same vision, the same goals that we do, I think we'll be in good hands.
Any chance that we'll be hiring within?
I'm not sure of the details. I'm sure that is a possibility. I know of quite a few people in the police department, and I think they would make great candidates.
Would you talk a little bit more about business development, as far as what do you think we need to do right off the bat? Do we need to hire a bunch of personnel at the city? Do we need to do a campaign for Escondido business opportunities?
I think those are both really good suggestions. So I know that our economic development team in Escondido at the city is great. Jennifer Schoenig, I'm sure you speak with her probably on a weekly basis. Pedro Cardenas is also really good. But when I talk to our economic development team, it's essentially two people.
Yes.
And I think that makes things I think we need to expand it so that we have more people on the ground, especially to see what it is that we need to do. One of the visions that we had, one of the goals that we had 2 years ago was to start eliminating, and you and I had talked about this before, eliminating red tape, removing red tape, streamlining the process. I know that they're improving the technology in order to do that, which is great. But I think there's also a culture, unfortunately, in Escondido and the Escondido staff, and this is something that, not to disparage anyone, because I think our staff does amazing work, but I think we need to start shifting away from, here's why it would be difficult, to, yes, let's do it, and how do we get there? So I think just changing it to a yes culture at a city level, I think will be really important. Expanding our staff in order to be able to do more grassroots, so that they're talking to businesses on a regular basis. And I think that what I am starting to see now, I think as of the last couple of months that I didn't see a few years ago, is the culture of Escondido residents, I think, is starting to shift, where we're seeing the necessity to actually start to continue to patronize, to support our local businesses. So it's something that I hadn't really seen before, where people are saying, hey, I'm willing to spend a few more minutes. I'm willing to get out of my car as opposed to just shop on Amazon or go to a drive-through, or I'm willing to spend 10 to 15% more. So I think there does need to be a campaign that's a little bit more aggressive on why it is important to support our local businesses. So not just at the city level, but on a communal level as well, community level. I think we need to really start campaigning for that.
So just recently something was on the agenda for drive-through.
Yes.
What was that all about?
There was 2 drive-throughs. One is where the Italian restaurant was formerly Marie Callender's, and I think it was Taquitos afterward. That's going to be a Chick-fil-A, which, again, I hear a lot of criticism about why that is, and it goes back to what we were just talking about. A lot of criticism has been we don't need another drive-through. But until we start, these businesses and investors, they are not going to invest in something that will not be successful. They do feasibility studies. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is that these bigger restaurants, these chains, these corporations are the ones that are more likely to be successful. And until we change the culture of being, like I said, able or willing to patronize local businesses, we're going to have these types of businesses continue. Because the 2 options that we have right now is we either have these more corporate restaurants, or we have vacant buildings. And nobody wants vacant buildings because it's bad for the economy, it's bad for the aesthetics, it creates blight, it attracts homelessness. We just can't have that. So there's the new Chick-fil-A that's going to be opening. Another concern is that's going to cannibalize businesses from the other ones, but I think it's going to be drawing a lot of business people from the east and center part of Escondido. And then the other one is going to be on Mission and Center City. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there because that whole corner has been abandoned, essentially. I've seen several encampments there, and so that's going to be addressing that. And they have a new restaurant that I don't think exists anywhere else in the county. It's called Pollo Camperos, I think that's what it's called. It's a new one. I believe it's a Guatemalan inspired restaurant. So that is going to be there, and I know that they approved it. It was approved in the last meeting, and I'm looking forward to it. So,
Well, unfortunately, our culture is grab and go,
Yes.
and as fast as I can get it, as cheap as I can get it.
Yes.
And that's not going to go away,
Yes.
unfortunately. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. We have to have it because if we don't build it here, somebody else is.
That's right.
And they're going to go somewhere else.
That's right.
We want to keep everything in Escondido as much as possible.
That's right.
So I get it.
I do too. You know, I'm not saying I never go through a drive-through or I'm absolutely guilty of it myself. I think, especially parents that are on the move and they need to grab something quickly before practice or after practice. But I think we just need to be a little bit more mindful. You know, if we have the opportunity, we have an extra half hour. And then also, you know, Escondido is beautiful. There's so much to do here. I hear so many people say that they go to other cities to have dinner or to go out on date night or whatever, and we have it here. So I think people just need to, again, be a little bit mindful and just think about where they spend their money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd really like to see the city do some kind of campaign to revitalize just business in general. And I'm not sure what that looks like, but I think it's on its way. Let's talk a little bit more about homeless.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
Mhm.
And they cause a lot of challenges for business owners.
Yes.
Here at the chamber, I keep the doors locked and have to make sure that I leave before it gets dark. And
Yeah.
it's really challenging. What are the first things that we could do to clear up the situation?
Are you talking about a city level, a communal level?
All of the above. I mean,
Yeah.
the city could implement things to help other parts of the community help. So it doesn't necessarily have to lie only on the responsibility of the city.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done quite a bit. I think one of the things is in this past year we've passed quite a bit of policies. We did an encampment ban. We did an RV ban. We like I said, we approved 4 more police officers for our community outreach program. We funded about, I think it was $1.4 million to different organizations around town, many of them which address homelessness. But if you talk to a lot of these programs, these homeless programs, you know, a lot of them are, to be very effective, they're talking about being able to serve a handful, maybe a dozen people in a span of 6 months. Some are more, you know, depending on what it is, but that's also very difficult in terms of just how many we have here. But anyway, so I think we have like I said, we passed the RV ban, the encampment ban, the more for police units, the funding for more as well. We also opposed a harm reduction ban earlier, I think it was last year, or very early this year, which was going to bring a county van that was going to pass out drug paraphernalia to the homeless, and the idea is that, you know, it's clean products for them. So we have been very aggressive. We've been very assertive already. The problem is that when the vacant building ordinance that we just passed as well, and then we updated our abatement policy as well. I think all those things are going to need to take effect, but the problem is that until we have the resources and the personnel to start enforcing it, I don't know how many policies we could pass until it's enforceable. Which is why I think that we do need to start right away. We are already increasing our personnel. We are increasing our staffing for that. So our code enforcement, we're going to be increasing as well. And then I think those are the biggest ones. I think those are the biggest things that we're doing right now. What we need to continue doing though is we need to continue increasing, like I said, our police personnel, and we need to also have a little bit more autonomy on our policies and how we address our homelessness. We can't always be taking the laws or the policies from the state, federal, or county, because it really restricts on what we're able to do. The passing of Prop 36 is also going to be very powerful for us in terms of what we're able to do.
What is Prop 36?
So Prop 36 essentially it changes the law. So what was happening before at a state level was that it made it made offenses misdemeanors, and we would be in this essentially non-enforceable misdemeanors. So people would commit a crime. If it was less than $950, they would be fined a misdemeanor, and then it wasn't enforceable, so they wouldn't be mandated to report on it, and it was just circular. They would do it over and over and over again. It was the same offenders. One of the things that really is frustrating is that a lot of people, and I was talking to a constituent about this the other day, a lot of people, when they think of a homeless person, everyone has the same image in mind. It's somebody that's living on the streets. It's somebody who's an alcoholic or a drug addict, and somebody who's a nuisance. The reality is that that's only about 5% of the population, 5 to 10% of the homeless population.
How big is the population?
The homeless population in Escondido, I think we have, the last count was close to 500 total. They're not all unsheltered, but again, and that's the point that that I want to illustrate to the general population, to the general public, is that most homeless people, homeless is not, like I said, a person's living in a tent on the street. A lot of them are people living in shelters. It could be people living in unconventional places, in RVs, in cars, in garages. So most of the homeless population we don't see. Unfortunately, the population that we do see are the ones that are the biggest nuisance to us, and the ones that cost us the most resources and time.
One of the last things I wanted to talk about or discuss is our housing in Escondido. Tell me about the housing. It's just so expensive, and it's just hard for a young family to start to purchase a home and just develop their family and grow their lives, and have deep roots and how does that play into our school systems?
Yeah, one of the things I'd really want to see is more young families, as you're saying, move into Escondido. I have a relationship with a lot of, it's almost like a curse word, the D word, developers, And the reality is, though, is that if we're going to be addressing our homeless crisis, we have to have relationships with developers. And so one of the things that I constantly am talking to them about is the need to create more, not just housing for middle-income families, but the opportunity to buy as well. Because when you purchase a home, you are setting your roots down in the community, and you are oftentimes you're invested in the long run. So not only just that, but you also are creating generational wealth, and that generational wealth provides some flexibility and some more options for families, especially young families. So what I really, really want to see is less apartments, more condominiums. That's something that I'm really, like I said, talking to a lot of the developers about. And it's just opportunities for people to start off. I know that the possibility of buying a standalone single-family home, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house it's extremely, extremely difficult. But if we provide the options to build for people to buy condominiums and start off in 2-bedroom condos, I think it's going to draw a lot of those young families that are going to be able to move up. So I think that's something that we really need to continue working on, and it's something that I'm hearing a lot more developers warming up to. So if it's not just condominiums, but also townhomes. So I think we're going to be seeing quite a bit more here in Escondido. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to solve the rising houses alone, but I think neighboring cities also have the same ideas that we do.
I hope it works out, because we need to gather those young families and keep them here.
Yes.
I grew up here, and it's been a wonderful town for me and my family, and now my grandchildren.
Yes, and you want to keep them here.
I do.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is why people like us are so invested. I mean, same thing with me. I have as mentioned, I have a 1-year-old, and so the decisions that I make in the neighborhood and the community I want to create, it's not necessarily just for me, it's for him. I want to keep him in Escondido indefinitely. Maybe he'll go off to college, um, but I want to create a thriving community for him.
Yes, a thriving community that is very diverse to come back to. What is next for you? You just won your election. Where do you see yourself going from here? Do you have plans on the horizon to do anything more than city council?
No, I don't. As of now, my plan is to just serve the city to the best of my ability for the next 4 years. Campaigning is exhausting. It's time consuming. It's a sacrifice. It takes time away from family, and nobody wants that. Anything that, if I were to move up in the career, let's say, would probably be at a state level, or it would be more time consuming, so it would take away from my teaching position. And I do love teaching. So I wouldn't want that. The other thing is, as I mentioned, we are trying to grow our family. So right now, in 4 years or almost 5 years, my son will be 6. That is such a formative time, elementary school. I half jokingly said in 4 years, I want to hopefully get elected to Little League president, or something on the Little League board. Something that just gets me, to spend more time with the family. So that's the goal right now.
Those are wonderful goals.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been great. And thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and experience so that we can share with our community.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it.